pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. Surrender to me now.
Hi, I'm Larissa.
And I'm Christina.
We're going to do Clive Barker. Other people may or may not join us today. They are 9fix/9 ghosting us, so I don't fucking know, but I want to get started. Clive Barker is a horror filmmaker, writer, artist. He also actually does kids books and kids art too. Stuff's pretty fucking dark. So yeah, I initially thought he was probably a 5.4 without having actually looked at him on camera, and now I'm leaning towards like 9.47.
I don't think I know anything about him.
So yeah, this is his art. Like this this looks either like social blind, or it looks like 4 or 5 or 9, and like that kind of 4, 5, 9 social blindy stuff. What do you think?
Yeah. Like at first glance I would assume something like 4 or 5 space.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's a bit hard to say because it's like, yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of them do like this kind of weird red smear, like primal death kind of, I don't know. Like often it looks like really, like it looks bad to me. Like I don't like the sloppy, messy, like kind of, which does seem social blindish stuff, but I could be wrong. Well, this is also what he looks like. So when he's younger, he kind of looks 90, like 911 kind of. But then there's like this kind of stuff. And he kind of aged poorly. I feel bad for him. He seems like a very nice person. I think he's had a lot of health issues. So Hellraiser. Yes, he wrote and directed that. Dan directed this one. So, okay.
I have seen the future of horror. His name is Clive Barker. Hellraiser, beyond any terror you have imagined. Nightmare. Unlike anything you have witnessed, is born. Because within these walls, the unholy is unleashed. Hellraiser, a film by Clive Barker. We'll tear your soul apart.
Like that feels social blind to me, but so yeah, you wrote and directed this one too. I kind of want to like, I don't know if there's maybe a theory to this, but I do feel like I don't think he's directed anything that he didn't write. I feel like that sort of feels like four fixie or four-ish to me, like he only wants to do like adaptations of his own stories. He only wants to direct his own movies, like um sort of that like my creation kind of thing.
Who's buried in it? Ain't nothing but dead folk.
Somewhere, hidden from sight, closer than you might think, is a place that's not on any map. Midian.
Something's breathing there.
It looks a lot like hell, but they call it home.
There goes the neighborhood.
They're not pretty. They're not neighborly.
Y'all come back now. You hear?
They're not even human. But this time, they're the good guys. From the imagination of Clive Barker comes Nightbreed.
You can't go down there.
They have only one enemy. A beast called man, sworn to destroy the Nightbreed.
Sounds like we're going head to head with the devil himself.
Only one chance. A man called Moon.
It's time to fight. Boys. What chance have we got? There are so many.
Out of your deepest fears and your darkest fantasies, Clive Barker brings you a startling new breed of adventure.
Adventure?
Nightbreed. At last, the night has a hero. Outstanding.
Like even his movies look like his art, eh? Like it has that like even his movies look like this. Like he has like a kind of consistent aesthetic of like red, black, like mutilated bodies.
Yeah, he has like a specific style.
I feel like it kind of is signaling instincts or type though too, because it's like it does kind of signal something in the 5-4, 4-5 or social blind kind of space, I think. Well, we can watch this because this is where I saw that he has like a 4 heart, a 4-wing 5 heart, I think.
Clive, if we were to get a business card from you, besides the obvious name of Clive Barker, what do you think it would say for occupation?
Imaginer. Professional imaginer, I think, is what I would like on if I had to have a business card. I've done so many different kinds of things, but the common thread has always been the imagination. So whether
like the fact that like that just kind of pulls away from 3 stuff, eh? Like you had to have a business card, like 3s have business cards. But what would you put on it? Like professional imaginer is not like an actual occupation. So.
Isn't it? That's disappointing.
But that does feel like 4-9, maybe like 4-7-9 trifixy. Like I feel like I could see you putting that on a business card, and you've got the 4-9.
it's been working in theater or painting, film, obviously, novels, poetry, even. It's the imaginative element which I hope distinguishes the Clive Barker work. So yeah, imaginer would go on the card. Well, I feel as though I've been given a task, if you will, by God, to create the images that I see in my mind's eye, that I see in my dreams, in the most concrete and the most elegant fashion that I possibly can.
Like, that he thinks God is sending these sadomasochistic images to share them with the world. He's right. That does seem like more 4-7-9, like kind of out to lunchy
Yeah, like it does feel kind of nine-ish to like see like things coming beyond yourself. But I think that, I mean, it is possible that some non-nines can say this too, because there's
Maybe it's just like an attachment type thing in general, like to feel like a vessel for something. I don't know if it points to a certain stacking, but a couple people thought maybe he's social self-pres, but I don't really get social self-pres from him.
though it can potentially be sexual as well,
Yeah,
maybe, because it's like he's kind of because sexual can have this like avoidance to it, where it's like where it's sort of loose or like loss of self.
ah,
That sort of opens an individual to like a certain energy or something.
yeah.
That's like, especially with like the creative energies, it's like there can be this like feeling of getting into a different state. I guess it depends a bit on how he expresses it as well. Social can also have this sense of being on a mission, I guess.
Very often the challenge is to see which medium those images belong in. That's the first question. You know, is this a movie? Is this a book?
Is it a comic
Is
book?
it what is it? Yes, exactly. Having figured that out, then the challenge becomes, well, how urgent is it for me to speak this? You know, I'm usually backed up 4 or 5 projects. Where does this fit? Sometimes something comes along so urgently, a painting particularly, that you just have to drop everything and just go do it. A book, you know, I'm finishing up on a book right now. It's taken 14 months, which is middle range book for me, you know. I mean, I've had obviously written much shorter books, but I've written longer things too. And you have to plan that. You have to, it's a long distance approach to a book that's going to take 14 months of your life. Same with a movie. I mean, a movie, perhaps of all the media we're talking about here, a movie is the thing which consumes you utterly. There is nothing else that you can do when you're making a movie, which is one of the reasons why I make so few of them. And one of the reasons why I'm looking very seriously whether I will make any more as a director. I was 48 yesterday. I think it's a young man's game to get up early in the morning, go direct pictures. I want to produce a lot. I have 5 pictures I'm supposed to be producing or executive producing next year.
There's sort of stuff in here that sort of leans me to Seven Head. Like, first of all, the urgency thing, like with art, like I don't know if that's a Seven Head thing, but like I feel that. And also that like how like directing, it does encompass your whole life, and he's right. So it's like it's almost like it does kind of trap you. It's like speaking to that sort of 7, maybe 7, 9 type feeling trapped. I feel like it's squashing your creativity because you can't be creative in any other way. You have to be focused, and that feels like a 7 sort of fear.
It does feel kind of 7-ish so far, but it's kind of hard to say for sure.
Like it feels like double selfie, like for like what is like double self, like 4, 7 self-oriented. Do you know what I mean? Like his, I don't know, like his reasons for doing things and not doing things, they seem to have no like context outside of just how he feels about doing something. Hi, Chanti. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to hear your perspective, because I know you don't think he's one of us.
Us.
Is he one of us?
Is he one of us? I don't know. Maybe. Okay. Look, I'm a vampire. Okay. But did you also talk about his you know that he has AIDS, and that he gave his partner AIDS, and that he was like a hooker?
I don't think he's ever really spoken that much about being gay. And he also, so yeah, he was a hustler, like an escort, hooker, whatever, when he had to pay his rent. And he did like, I don't know, these are sort of back channel things that I read over the years, which so I don't know for sure if they're true, that he gave his partner HIV, and that's why he's suffered so many health problems over the years. Like, he's had tumors in his throat, and okay, that's why he sounds weird. Like, as he gets older, he sounds really bizarre. And I don't know if that points to a certain instinctual stacking potentially. The fact that he has had all these problems and he has overcome all this stuff and he doesn't talk about it does make me think 7 head over like 6. Not making part of his identity that like he's ill, he's, you know,
yeah.
like I feel like 6s and 6 fixers, especially if they're social, they're gonna fucking, they do it. They're gonna use it.
Yeah. And the sympathy cards and stuff.
Yeah. He seems in La La Land for the most part. I feel like because I think he might be a 9, that there's a lot of attachment stuff still happening. So like attachment, for people who don't know what that means, like it means like adapting and pinging off other people and like kind of wanting to like merge or melt or like be whatever on some level, like
the environment.
Sorry?
With the environment, I said.
Which is a hefty load. And even though 2 of those are CGI pictures and therefore have long development processes, nevertheless, I'm very intimately tied into their life. And so even though there are a lot of producers in this town who sort of have their name on the movies and really don't have anything to do with them, I'm not one of those guys. I like to be involved. I like to have a hands-on connection with the pictures. I don't have a career, I think. Word career doesn't really connect to me. I don't know. A career implies some grand ambition. Career actually implies fiscal ambition more than anything else, I think, which has never been a major part of my planning. I don't think of myself as having a career. I think of myself as having a life in the imagination, living in the imagination.
Career is also finite. People say, well, I put in my 30 years or my 10 years, paid my money, and I retired.
That's exactly right. I'm not anticipating death will stop me. I fully anticipate continuing to make movies after death.
In hell? What?
Like that does seem something 974 479 like
Yeah,
trifix, because like
that won't stop me. Fuck you. I will make movies in hell, bitch.
doesn't identify as even having ambitions or like a career.
Yeah, that's not a tree.
No. Like he just wants to live in his head and make magical things. Like,
yeah, I don't know why he seemed, when I watched like yesterday a video of him, he seemed like way more above ground. Now he looks very underground. You know what I mean? He looks like way more grimy and less sunny. Yesterday I thought he was like a little bit more sunny, but maybe it was another time, another interview.
I wonder if it is just like if you are a 9 core, and especially when you're younger and you're not, you know what I mean, and you're like, but he's sort of singing the same song in every interview where he's asked about himself. He's always like the magical world, the fantasy world, like it's like a total obsession for him that he exists in this sort of liminal realm of like possibility and making things up and stuff, like and like I know that he doesn't vibe like Michael Jackson, but it weirdly reminds me of some of the stuff I watched of Michael Jackson, who typed as 974. It's like he there's something sort of weirdly innocent about Clive Barker, even though his films are like sadomasochistic and like dark and suffocating, but it's like I feel like he doesn't like understand that. Like it's almost like there's like he's like, yes, I'm just presenting these images and like magical, but they're like fucking people having like their skin peeled off them and like That's why I think he has a 4.5 like heart.
Yeah.
But,
Well, yeah, it is visible in his work though, so I don't know.
Obsessed with the process of making stories and making images. It's just everything in my body and mind is conspiring to work that way. It's Faulkner's life that's believed, or Hemingway's life that's believed, rather than like the guy like, let's take an example of somebody we both know, Stephen King, who gets up on a Monday morning and writes and works and produces 2 books a year and has been doing so for 25 years very successfully, are presumably not cradling a whiskey at 10 in the morning or indeed a shotgun. There's nothing that gets between me and the art except sex. That is not a bad habit. That's a good habit. Also hard. Well, yeah, it can be. It can be.
If done well.
Caught on a Monday morning, it may just be a crack.
Clive, when I was a child.
I mean, maybe that does say he has SX in the stacking there.
Well, he doesn't care what people think about him, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Based on this interview, I don't know in general, but
when was this interview? So he's 48 in this interview. Like, it wasn't like kind of okay to talk about gay sex. Like, okay, so he would have been, that would have been like 20, almost like just over 20 years ago. So it like wasn't really okay to talk about gay sex like 20, like even then, you know what I mean? So the fact that he just kind of popped that out.
Yeah, that is sort of, I don't know, Seven trying to provoke and trying to, just throw this shit out there and see what the people will do with it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I do that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that is excess, SX7 stuff. I don't know.
Like, I feel like he's social blind. Like, based on his movies, I feel like he's social blind. Like, there's not really like there's like the basics that you have to have in a film, but I don't see like these overarching thematic statements or worldviews that he's kind of like imparting on the audience. Like, and like I feel like when you look at his art, like this sort of look, does this not look like kind of social blind art to you, or like that 4 or 5 social blind kind of?
Yeah, actually it does.
Like, even though he's drawing like people and stuff, it's like,
I didn't know he was also an artist.
Yeah, well, that also points maybe to 479 is that he does all the things like,
yeah.
But and he has kids books too. This guy has fucking kids books. Like, that also speaks to social blind. You know what I mean? The fact that he's just like, yeah, I mean, he talks about it in one interview. Like, he just doesn't seem to pick up on the fact that it's like weird. You know what I mean? That he's.
I was wondering, when you realized at that young age that you wanted to go into the arts, I was wondering what your parents' reaction was to that decision.
They were certainly saying, Clive, what will you be doing with your life? But I don't think I ever got as close to defining it that I could ever have said, oh, well, it's science fiction, it's horror, or whatever. They just didn't like the idea of my being in the arts. It seemed to them disastrous. Disastrous fiscally, disastrous if I wanted to raise a family. There were, I think people who don't work in the arts have a very jaundiced vision of what we actually do and how we go about it. I think too often it's the legend that's believed. There's a tendency both to over-romanticize the profession of the arts, to make it sound as though it's a lap of luxury on the one hand, and also to make it sound a lot more demoniacal than it actually is. For a lot of the time, as you know, it's just sitting down and working through technical problems of how to express something that's in your mind's eye that you wish to tell or show to somebody else, somebody you will probably never meet. At the age of 31, I didn't have a bean in my pocket. It's perfectly fine for people to say. I think it's right that people say, well, why shouldn't I have a crack at it? Good God, when I read the books or see the movies that are on the screen, I think more people should be having a crack at it.
Yeah.
I see an awful lot of movies which seem very derivative of other movies. I see a lot of books which seem like warmed over versions of other people's books. No, I see more power to the person who says, I want to have a go at it. They've got to.
And like when he's describing like what he's seeing, like he is focusing on what I would say is kind of for stuff, where it's like, oh, it's derivative, it's just like a warmed up version of something else. So, but then doing like a positive of like, so other people should do it because everything's like shitty, maybe. So maybe yours won't be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also 9 stuff like, come on, universe, grab your chance. And if everybody tries, then something good will come out of, like all the shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting. Yeah. Do you see him like similar to like David Lynch?
What does he use 9-wing-174?
SPSX.
Like to me at least, David Lynch's films feel like they have no social context, like there's no actual meaning, or I'm sure there is to him, but there feels like no actual meaning to them when as a viewer I'm watching them, like it's not saying anything. And I feel that way about Clive Barker's films.
It is like it's like fucked up and weird to be fucked up and weird.
Like Nightbreed, you could say there's social context in that it's like the people, it's like the monsters are the good guys and the people are, and it's the people who are evil. So you could say there's social context, but to me, his social context feels like not actually so social. Like it feels like his stuff is very like sadomasochistic. Like there's social context in Candyman, but he didn't
It's
direct
also
that.
from him.
He did Candyman, but he wrote the book though, the short story. He didn't like the actual directing or writing. So I don't know, it's really hard to say. Like to me, I just don't see, could be it could be self-pressed social, but I feel like he seems social blind to me, like just how he
but he's like shamelessly himself, so.
And all the things we were talking about before, but if you take those things on board and you're prepared for that, well, man, go for it. For me, the pleasure of creating Thief and now Apparat has been the pleasure of doing something which I, Clive Barker, would enjoy. And I think in a way that's what you've always got to do. You've got to make work which you believe that if you were to come and find it in a bookstore, you would pick up. You would take pleasure in. I like I like my human life, my domestic life, my ordinariness. I don't like public life very much. I like a kind of invisibility that comes with being able to be an author.
Yeah, that sounds super nice.
So 9, Jesus.
And also that he's like, I like that he's multiple times now has like, oh, my human life, or like, well, I'll still make films when I'm dead because I won't really be dead. It does seem like kind of 9-7 sort of
Imagination,
yeah, like I already exist on some other realm. This is just the thing that I'm temporarily doing.
But also like he's talking about like his invisibility, that he wants to be like invisible for the masses, and don't bother me.
He does seem like very pleasure focused. Like he's focused on the pleasure of things.
So that could be SX too. Yeah, like you said earlier, sort of. It's like he sounds like he's almost like sexually connected to creating or something.
And quietly go to your writing room and write.
Clive, is it true you actually do all your writing in longhand?
Yeah.
One would think that if you used a word processor, you could quadruple your output.
You know, it's not broken, why fix it?
Because he's not a 135, because he's not a competency type. It's all about the process.
It's not about quantity anyway, is it? It's about quality. And I've been writing, I think, quite serviceable prose longhand for 20 books, 21 books now.
Poor people who have to
What?
fucking write that shit down. I said poor people who have to fucking type that shit out. All this fucking scribblings
Oh,
of the
I
books.
think there's something more romantic about it though. Like for a while I was writing on my typewriter, just to see if I could to help me focus and stuff. And I felt more connected to what I was writing. And I felt more like, I was like, this is how like the old writers did it. And I feel like most writers now are terrible writers. So maybe part of it is because people write on computers. Like maybe when you're writing longhand, or, you know, like Quentin Tarantino writes longhand, like maybe there's something to that because you're like connected spiritually to,
Yeah.
you're not like part of the Borg doing it.
Yeah, I often prefer to like write by hand. When I'm drafting a story, it's like much easier to like get immersed in it if I'm like writing with a pen and paper than if I'm writing on a computer, because on a computer you can feel a bit detached. It becomes more aesthetic, at least, I think.
Yeah, it feels
It
more like
becomes
art.
more of a it becomes a more aesthetic experience, so I feel more immersed in the process.
I've noticed that when people get onto word processors, sometimes the quality goes down. It's a little too easy. The writing becomes facile. You can just pop in there and change this or add that and move things around. Handwriting things is laborious. You get it right or you don't. I like that discipline. You know,
Yeah,
each
I know that. But editing is like a bitch then. If you have like you know, like some mistake or you want to add something somewhere, you have to use post-its. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I do the editing on the computer, but I do the drafting by hand, because it's like to rewrite everything by hand is a pain, but it's
And I think like you could argue like, oh, he likes the labor of writing by hand, but it's like, I think that is like the romanticizing of the act. Like it feels more like, oh, it hurts, like it's better because it hurts, like
Yeah, it's like carving my feelings and my thoughts in paper. You know, it's like
it makes it more it makes it more authentic.
yes, yeah.
channel calling up and saying we'd like to come and, you know, do a program about your house. Well, guys, no, you know, that's my house and they live in it and it's private. And
like that just feels double withdrawn anyways, like so 9 and 4, like this is my house, it's private.
yeah.
the part of me that I want to show is actually the most important part of me, the part which dreams with his eyes open. The rest belongs to me and my loved ones. And I'm not being secretive or coy or anything. I just don't feel it's who I am. I don't feel that. I feel as though the things that I do on the page, I do on the canvas, I do quietly with the door closed. And
that does feel like, again, 9-4-4-9 space, like it's like I'm choosing what you get to see. Like it's not in like a 3-ish way or like, you know, like a rejection sort of way. It's like that keeping out the contaminants, like this is my special, like, and then what I show you is what you're allowed to have.
Graphic image also. Yeah.
Like I am wondering if he's 4 wing 5 second potentially.
Yeah, yeah.
If there is any value in our doing something like this together, it would be in part so that I can say that it's okay to be a quiet, offbeat, weird kid with an offbeat imagination, because if you follow the lead that that imagination gives you, you may one day find something that will enchant people. But the thing that enchants people isn't.
I know, isn't just, don't you love him now? Like watching this video, because I was very like nah about him before, and then when I watched this, I was like, oh, he's like a little sad boy.
Yeah, I know.
Also,
so cute.
Also, the whole wanting to enchant people thing does sound kind of 7-ish.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
7, 9, yeah.
Yeah.
And even if like whether or not
It
he's
sounds-
social blind, the part where he's like, I wanted like people to know that it's okay to be have these offbeat things, that seems 90 to me. Like just that he's kind of like the attachment part of like I'm aware that I'm different and like I want to make that okay for others.
Clive Barker, it's a growth out of Clive Barker. Do you see what I mean?
It's a growth.
I think writers should retain some measure of dignity. And I don't think turning out the contents of your psyche as though it were an attic that the world had the right to is appropriate. In fact, one of the things that I think a writer should be doing is preserving the secrets of his or her heart and soul, because you never know where hidden deep inside that attic space is something which one day will turn into a world.
Oh my god.
Like, I know, he's like saying it in the cutest sad boy 9 way. I fucking super relate to that. Like
it sounds also very 9 how he says which one they will turn into a world. It's like this thing that is like lying dormant inside us, and it's like evolving in the background, or like it's almost evolving on its own. So it sounds a bit like, you know.
Yeah, I like it. But it's also a little bit the world building, you know, from the social, what was it, social SP or SP social, but he feels not so social to me.
yeah.
Well, I was saying that the inside, that's like a metaphor, right? Inside that attic space is something which one day will turn into a world.
Yeah.
It's like this dormant seed that is like growing into a world. And that felt kind of 9-ish to me, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he does feel pretty. He does feel pretty 9 in general, and I do think he seems like a Haas so far, but I'm not the expert on Haas, so.
Yeah, I think he's just like a real like interesting example of it, because it's not that obvious from his work. It was actually Kiernan who suggested he could be a like a 4-7-9 trifix. And I was like, no fucking way, because I don't like his movies, but I like him. Like he's but also like that feeling of like, I think this is a 4-9 stem thing where it's like, and I want to say maybe the influence of a 5 wings. I don't know how much like if we want to unpack that, but it's like I definitely feel what he's saying in a sort of the same way, but a different way, where it's like I have to wall off people from accessing my possibilities. It's almost like someone trying to like stick their hand in and take my muse out. Like that's how it feels. It's like you're limiting my possibilities by me by giving you pathways of entry points to my spirit, my heart. So it's like if I put like art out, it's because I've made peace with like that. Like I'm kind of like closing that door, and I'm
it's finished.
And like there's no access
I don't remember. Like I don't remember exactly how he said it, but he did sound like he was talking about how it's like this like precious treasure that he has to like
preserve.
guard keep that he has to preserve, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounded kind of foolish that he has this like precious thing inside him that needs to be
Mm-hmm.
I do
that
feel like
needs to
that's
be like
415.
either hidden or like that needs to either be hidden away or it must be like until it can be like grow into the
Yeah, I guess what he said was like, yeah, like a growth, like then it becomes like this growth or whatever. And I see it as, I don't visualize it that way, but it is like this tendril or something. So I don't know. I feel like that could be, I think he has a 4-wing 5 heart. Like, and that does seem to me more 4-wing 5, or like if somebody has 4 and 5, like how much of that did you relate to, Chanti? Like, because you share a lot.
Yeah, I do share a lot. It's true. But it's more to make my own life a little bit more interesting, my space. So if I share it, then little seeds will grow around me, you know?
Oh.
I don't
it
know.
Also feels a bit, I also thought it feels a bit self-pressed, the thing he says. Like the metaphors or like things that since he talks about preserving it, that does sound a bit self-pressed in a way too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm wondering how we can eliminate social or sexual from his stacking, because I think we all see self-pres for sure.
Yeah.
Like I think he does 9-wing 1, 4-wing 5, 7-wing 6.
But I don't think he's 9-wing 1. I think he's 9-wing 8.
You think he's 9-wing 8?
I think so. But yeah, you will see.
He feels like too like I don't know, maybe it's just because he's British, but he feels like that 9-wing 1 kind of poncy special, like 9-wing 1. Like kind of he feels like more, even though he's like ripped or whatever, he has that sort of rigid, fragile sort of 9-wing 1-y schoolboy sort of thing about him. I don't know. It's like
okay, you'll watch
vocabulary. He doesn't feel lumpy to me, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
And why the hell show it before it's become a world? My work is best made when I am centered, when I'm not thinking about myself, when I'm not thinking about, Barker's ego or Barker's opinion or how Barker appears in the world. Who the fuck cares how Barker appears in the world?
And I was wondering if, in fact, if we can call them fans, if that cult following, that fandom in any way influences the way you work.
Where I encounter my fans, and I don't even really like the word fans, there's something slightly condescending about the word fans. They're readers, they're my readers.
Like again, that kind of points away from 3 or like him just even being an assertive type in general. Like he doesn't want fans. Like
where I encounter my readers is obviously at conventions and at signings, book signings, though recently they've become, in some cases, so large, it's become harder and harder and harder to really get a personal thing going. Yeah. Which I regret. I try and answer the letters still, though they come in their thousands now. We have the internet, so we have ways of answering people's questions that way. So that is never going to be as intimate as this kind of conversation.
Yeah, so he keeps talking about like personal connection to like his readers, and he wants that real connection, and that could be maybe 9 or something, but I wonder if that is pointing to SX on some level.
Yeah, it depends, because both social and sexual can want connection. Though he does use, like, since he does talk about connection, intimacy, which can be both in a way. So it's a bit hard to say.
Yeah, but it isn't about his ego, he said, and about his him as a person and how he feels. It's more about his work in a way.
I think in a way, and I said this several times, that the most truthful and intimate things that I can say about myself are in the books. I need to preserve a space around myself, and which is also an interior space, actually, in which things can grow, images can grow, stories can grow, worlds can grow. There are no regrets. There's no time for regrets. Why regret? No, absolutely no time for regret.
That sounds like 7.
Yeah, and before
Yeah,
that,
but
There's
maybe,
no time for regret.
yeah, but also maybe, I don't know, like possible 8 wing for me, because it's like, you know, it's why bother with regrets or something. It's like
It made me think of 7 in particular because of the like focus on time. Like there's no time for regret
yeah,
because he
okay,
has
true.
because it's like he need there's like there's too much else to like
Focus on, yeah,
so there's no time
yeah,
to like
yeah, it's like
yeah, but
interfering with his creative work if he's focusing on regrets. Like, yeah, I could see that just being 7 in general, because it's like I get really agitated when people, I know that people say, oh, it's a 3 thing, but I think it's a 7 thing too. And if you would rather be spending your time on these creative pursuits or these mental pursuits, and then you have to like waste your time with other stuff, it makes like I get really bad anxiety from stuff like that, because it's like, this has nothing to do with what I'm actually interested in. This has nothing to do with my passions. Get the fuck out of here. Why? No, I'm not interested in going to the grocery store for 3 hours. Like, anyways, maybe it's the same. Like, he's choosing how he navel gazes. Like,
yeah, but it's also like autonomy stuff. Like, I don't want to, you know, people or whatever to take my space away or my time.
Yeah, well, he does talk a lot about space, about needing space for himself. It does sound like he has a strong withdrawn influence that he focuses a lot on, where he can be creative and, you know.
yeah, because it's like I feel like miserable when I'm sharing space with other people. Like, I can't fully be creative. Like, I can't fully exist and write and make things. It's only when I have the house to myself that I truly feel like happy, where I'm like, ah, la, 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 like, and then I'm like making things, and but it's just like, even just having another person in my space, it's like, well, it's ruined. So, you know, I don't even like people coming to visit me. Like, I don't even like people, you know what I mean? Like, stepping foot in my space. So I don't think it has to be a 9 wing 8 thing.
No, it's true.
Anyway, I kind of went off there. Sorry.
The business of writing and of art, if you will, is driven by some greater force in me. I'm very, very conscious of energy and how much I have of it and how I'm going to preserve it and use it for the best possible purpose. The purpose is making books and making paintings. How many more of those do I have in me?
Yeah, and that does definitely point back, like you said, to self-preservation stuff. And I think 9, or just having 9.
Yeah, for sure.
He does sound like he has a strong sense of purpose in a way, but it's like, yeah. So I wonder if that's indicative of something.
I do associate purpose with social self-pres, but I don't know. I don't get social often.
But it could, yeah. I don't think he seems that social, because
No.
it's like, it's not how he comes across. But I wonder if it also can be kind of. It could say. It could also come from 4, maybe, because 4 is like also has this sense of like, because he has this vision, I guess, that he needs to get. That he needs to create.
I'm kind of reaching, but it could also be almost the 7 head self-rationalization of like, this is how I can justify with the 9, like taking up space and focusing on myself and my needs and my wants, like to make creativity. And so I rationalize it as purpose. Like it could even be some sort of psychological.
Yeah, I can see he's getting these visions from God, so he needs to get them out there.
Not from Satan. From Satan.
It's like, I think how like sometimes 9s, especially like 2, 9, 6, 2, 9 or whatever, like the 2, 6, 9 can be like fake, like sick so that they don't have to help. It's like the 9 part of it has to find a thing to justify why I'm allowed to like take up space or do things for myself, sort of. Just some of that almost. I don't know. This one, he's in that weird fucking horror dinner thing, and it might be interesting to see how he relates to his peers, if we can pick up on
and interaction with other people.
People is uncertainty. See, I think that siding with the forces of anarchy, with the forces of disruption and darkness, may actually be a solution. And the real terror of 2001 is that it will be like the movie. I don't mean that the movie is bland, but that the vision of the world.
Is he talking now?
Yeah, this is him. Isn't he so cute and dorky?
He's like completely different person now. Okay. Oof.
Well, he's still talking about similar things, like being sensitive to this like force or energy.
Yeah.
The vision of the world of the movie is bland. That everything is antiseptic. That these are lives which are being lived in a very functional, robotic kind of way. And given the choice between the robot and the demon, I would choose the demon every time. I want to be the dark, sensual, fluid, protean thing, which I think human beings.
That is like I don't know, 9-4 space.
I also think it's maybe some kind of SPSX XSP space too, because like I want to see like grimy and demonic and like fluid and protean and like
I was thinking it sounded like self-sexual so far.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Because he's like, sure, he's doing like the the social, like what's going to happen in the future thing, but I can also see that just being the trifix where he's just having ideas, but then he's like pushing into like the instinctual part almost here, where he's like his preferred outcome is they're all rolling around naked and eating
in the dirt. Like worms.
Yeah.
Can be. And my major terror, when I was a kid, I watched Doctor Who. My terror of the Daleks was the terror of something which was soulless, that had no moral component whatsoever, and no imaginative component.
Fuck, moral component.
I have a Dalek.
Also 9-wing 1 though, I'm just saying. But
I have a Dalek here. It's funny.
No imaginative component that worked like a train worked along the same track. That seems to me to be so much more terrifying than your thing. You can argue which with can the change. Devil. You can argue with the devil. You can probably get laid by the devil.
You can probably get laid by the devil.
I like his priorities.
Yeah, he does keep taking conversations where you're not talking about sex and pulling them back to sex. So I feel like SPSX.
Make it weird somehow. Like
but yeah, it's like unrelatable sexual shit. Like, I mean, of course, yes, all 7s have thought about fucking the devil, like they've thought about fucking an alien or whatever, but it's like, I feel like the fact that he keeps bringing it up is like...
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that they're going to talk about social stuff.
Oh, shit.
And I want to see how he reacts to it.
The Western culture in the 60s and 70s. They're so frightened of.
See, I think he's social self-pres, although I've been vetoed that he's SPSO, but I think John...
You mean Carpenter?
I think John Carpenter's social self-pres, but everyone's arguing me on it now. But anyway, but that right there, social self-pres.
Of sexuality and issues of like abortion. And what it does.
Oh no, abortion.
That's what's tearing America apart like that. I think maybe you're not so much frightened of the Reaganites as of the triumph of the Reaganites.
And if we, with Bush riding very high in the polls in the United States right now, the Reagan-Bush concepts will exist for anarchy, maybe is preferable.
So then we've got Dionysus
good.
against Apollo.
Yeah, right.
And we've got something very, very interesting and classical going on. Ramsey.
Well, I think we've also got essentially something that genuinely scared the audience is which side it's going to root for.
Yes.
Basically, you've got to make the dark side.
What the fuck is he that guy doing?
Spit it out, nerd.
You've got to celebrate it full.
So he was like completely ignoring this whole conversation, and if he talks, it's like about fucking Dionysus. I mean, what the fuck? He's trying to steer it back to things that for him are interesting.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's social blind. And I mean, that's also our like trifix is just sort of like on some level, like that's not an interesting to talk about. So I'm gonna try to make it more exciting to me. And then other people just ignoring him. Like that happens to me all the time. But this, so these are social suppressed topics, like you pointed out. So it's like if he's not engaged in that, then that does kind of because all social suppressed types, no matter what their trifix, is going to have an opinion on.
Yeah, or like social playground stuff. I don't see him like talking about, I don't know, he's not like engaging, but maybe later. So
the artist. So part of it comes from the artist, and there's a feedback and a response from the audience. And that girl, I would hope, is a very minor, for all our sakes, a very minor point of the audience.
I agree with you. I think she's a growing part of the audience. I think that's part of the banality of the culture, part of the spoon-fed element of the culture. Young people are asked to use their imaginations less and less. And you know, in a way, we do a wretched thing to them. We teach them the reality of Santa Claus and Oz and Never Never Land up until the age of 5. And then we tell them at the age of 5, that was all lies. Here's the gross national product, Chile, you know. And we've got this very bland 1919 vision of the world. We've got a place in which imagination has been scoured, not just from the 5-year-old, but from the whole culture.
90% of the people.
So yeah, they're like talking about politics. Like he is engaging with the social chatter, but it's like back to like imagination. It's back like he literally in every interview pulls every conversation back to the imagination. The imagination.
that's to relate to himself, and that's like one thing that he relates to. So he reflects it back.
Yeah, it's like but like probably has like kind of nothing to do with what they're talking about. Like he's kind of insulting them actually, because they're talking about like, you know, the GDP of Chile or fucking whatever, and he's just like, why? Like we should be focused on imagination. Like
Make a good movie.
All right, all right. So we're not gonna make a hit. We're gonna make a great movie. Right. What do we have?
We're assuming we have the best producers. Roger, do you agree with that? Should we make a hit, Roger, or should we just make a
culture classic?
That's what So what do we have? What do we have? What's on the table so far?
We have 2 evils, one of which we're going to end up saying is an evil, which is the Reaganite thing, and one of which we're going to end up saying, well, yeah, you know, maybe it's an evil, but it's light.
Okay,
fun.
so
It's light.
from the very dangerous pit comes this personification of blandness.
Okay, what is it for you? What is the personification?
and look at John Carpenter looking around like, what the fuck is this guy talking about again? From the pit, the personification of darkness or blandness or whatever the fuck he just said.
What does it look like? What does it wear?
It wears white. Certainly wears white. It probably quotes the Bible
California.
a lot.
It looks precisely the same, and it comes to everybody's front door.
This would be something to be very much afraid of.
All right, so
I don't know how you can make it. But you might.
Opening scene of the movie, a beautiful little town, Smallville. Yeah, the town of Halloween. You know, Haddonfield. A town where everything is reassurance. High summer. When does the census come? Does it matter?
It comes
Midsummer.
No, April. Weirdly enough, April Fool's Day, April 1st.
April 1st. April 1st in this tiny little town, and these vans appear, these cars appear, yes? And in each of them is a similarly dressed man or woman who goes, spread throughout the town, and they look sweet and bland. And when they come to the doorsteps of each of the individuals who opens the door says, "You remind me vaguely of somebody."
Right.
And the person says, "We just want to know how many kids you've got, how many rooms there are in your house, what you..."
This weirdly feels heart type. This feels image type to me almost, but I don't think he's an image type. But it is interesting to me that he's kind of like redirected the conversation for him to just tell this little story, like, again, like not really engaging.
Yeah.
Like what
Yeah.
he's trying to weave a metaphor. I guess that's like nine stuff.
Mhm.
Have a pet. What else do they ask in censuses?
It gets deeper and deeper, and this
Really
is something that, you know,
Yeah.
that could be worked in. Every consecutive census has become more intrusive.
Invasive, right?
Yes, invasive is a better word, of personal liberty. So it could well be that a census 10 years from now could be the most startling and frightening of all.
I have a, go ahead. No, you.
The really frightening thing about the guy who appears on your doorstep is not only that he will be invasive, but that he will know things about you that you assumed nobody knew. They know something that you thought was your secret. And I think that's the fear of the census taker. It's not simply that he's going to ask how many
Yeah, but that he
bathrooms
already
you've got,
knows.
but he
He
already
tells
knows
you.
exactly.
I have a
Yes, right.
I have a master plan for for these census people. You know, is it the Mormons who are gathering up the names of everybody who ever lived on the planet? Is it the Mormons? Or
Yes,
Jehovah's
they
Witnesses?
are.
Is it the Mormons?
Mormons are, have constructed a giant record, so if you want to trace out your ancestors, you can go to Salt Lake.
Oh,
or
really?
contact Salt Lake.
I mean, he is doing a little bit of social playground, I guess. Like, it's hard because it's like he's kind of doing, like, he doesn't, I mean, this could just be the trifix not retaining the details of any of these social physical things. Like, I'm like the same way. I'm just like, details, who cares? But
Yeah, I can see self-dressed sexual though.
yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I mean, he constantly just, he's only like focused on, I don't know, his fantastical, magical things. And yeah, I mean, I can in a conversation like go a little bit social, and I don't know, but it's all like, it's not like he actually knows that much details about everything. It's like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's just like the way he just seems to be in his own world most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if he's like a literal type, it's like he's kind of in this, like, you know,
In his own cocoon, in his own weird world.
yeah.
And he's trying to like pull them back into telling stories at the table. Like,
Yeah.
like it's like the second time he's trying to do that now. Like, like he doesn't want to have to hash out politics really. He's just trying to find the interesting, juicy bits for himself.
Yeah.
Which I think can be that trifix.
Yeah, that too.
But I feel like if he was like, yeah, like a social, it's hard. I get SPSX off his artwork more than anything else. Like if we were to put like our collage hats on, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's people in it, but
yeah, okay, but
it's not like signaling anything, you know what I mean? It's just like pictures. Okay, well, like if you look at him, it's kind of tough when he's older. Like, I mean, he's kind of able to do there's an intensity to him in pictures. Like these ones are dorky, but then you get these ones and it's this looks like a David Gray with the cigar, like, and the shirt off, like, ugh.
Yeah, to be honest, there are times where I thought he's kind of reminding me of David Gray.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Like just a few things that he's saying
Yeah,
here
I
and there
can't
is a bit.
unsee it.
It's a bit in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Oh, he has
He's cuter though. At least when he was younger.
like, yeah, when he was younger, he was more dorky, but that could just be because he's like 9 finding his way in the world, you know, like
Uh-huh.
I do feel like his stuff just feels be interesting to watch the original of this, which I've seen a lot of times, and compare it to the new one, just to see if it feels more socially themed than, like, there were social themes in Candyman, obviously racism and stuff, but it didn't feel like a social movie to me. But yeah, I don't know. Well, we could like land on a, I think we all agree with his, we don't, okay, so we don't agree on his core wing though, right? So I wonder what would push us over the edge between wing 8 and wing 1.
Yeah, like his art kind of feels like he's just showing his inner landscape rather than like telling a social message. It's like,
I guess.
I mean,
Do you feel like super ego stuff or more rejection?
Like, to me, he looks like more of a 9 wing 1 than a 9 wing 8, like his face. Think about 9 wing 8s that feel kind of SP 9 wing 8s that feel kind of gross. Like I'm like, they haven't like washed or something, or like like he feels like kind of poncy, you know what I mean? Like,
Where those very conventional elements, where those very reassuring elements were just blown away. Doors opened within those environments and things came through those doors. I mean, that was very much what was going on in my imagination.
I think 8-7 for adjacent.
yeah.
I don't feel the one shining through. But
yeah, like I mean, even though he like talked about morality earlier, overall he just doesn't feel that super ego.
But if he's
Like
social
he was talking about, yeah, like he was talking about the Daleks and how there's like no morality and no soul. But I think it's less about like, it was less focused on like the super ego aspect and more like he, in a way, he kind of disliked too much competency focus, perhaps.
oh, maybe it's interesting to see if you can find a clip of him talking about his age and giving it to people.
Oh, I don't think that's going to be found. I also don't know if that's common knowledge.
Jesus.
Hellraiser and Candyman author Clive Barker just scored a big victory in court over his ex-boyfriend, who accused Barker of having sex with his own HIV positive cousin before passing the virus on to him, because his ex's lawsuit has been tossed out the court forever. Parker's ex-boyfriend, Emilian David Armstrong, sued the writer in June, claiming he gave him HIV in 1996, then kicked him out on the street, leaving him destitute. The lawsuit is crazy, with allegations of cousin sex, AIDS, S&M, and drug-fueled parties, but the judge ruled the case was baseless and should not go forward.
Okay.
I want to say that's social blind, if that's true.
Yeah, indeed.
I wonder if that's true. That adds a whole new shade to this typing, doesn't it?
Can you maybe search Clive Barker HIV and then videos?
Damn, if he fucked his cousin. Social blind 9s, man.
Yeah, they all fuck cousins.
The Candyman is or was
a black man with a body full of bees and a hand which is turned into a hook or has been replaced by a hook. And he's a pretty scary character, but he's also a kind of Phantom of the Opera sort of character in the sense that he's troubled and deserves at least as much pity as he does fear.
Okay, and maybe and maybe the Candyman has some conscience of some sort.
Oh, for sure. And he has motives. He's not a sort of blind serial killer. He's somebody who has vengeful motives. He's actually the spirit of a slave who fell in love with a white woman and and was parted from that woman and had his hand cut off and was fed to the bees and now comes back if you say his name 5 times into a mirror. He's a he's an urban legend. We created an urban legend. As a kid, I was told all these stories. We were all told these stories.
Sure,
I guess we were told them around campfires, and then we told them ourselves around campfires. And there were stories which happened to friends of ours. That was always the intro to them, because you always wanted to establish there was some truth in them. And you said, well, I know a friend of a friend who, and some of them were comical. Some of them were things like people drying off their poodles in microwaves, an urban legend. But then there were also the scary stories. There were the stories of the whole
That was comical. It was comical. I mean, he's doing a social self-prezi thing here, but God, this is so hard.
Yeah, no, I think he's social blind though, but I want to focus now on if he has like some sort of super ego shit going on.
Well, if his overlay is like 156 or 165, that would give him sort of elements of social. The 1 and the 6 stem would kind of add some social conscience to him. And what he's sort of talking about is like sort of social conscience stuff. Like,
yeah, but he's not saying that it's like bad or something. Like, no, you shouldn't do that, and that's very bad. I don't feel like I don't know.
Where do you
feel
see 8?
judgment? What?
Where do you see 8 though?
I don't know. I just don't see 1 that much, so that's why I'm leaning towards 8.
I wonder if maybe we should look at some people with similar type and just try to see. I'll just play a little bit more.
Ended men who came after lovers in Lovers Lane and so on.
Sure. By the way, when we were kids at camp, we would sit around the fire, as you say at night, and we would talk about kids we knew that saw a vampire.
Right.
You know, kids
Bogeyman stories.
Yeah, kids we knew who saw the wolf man at night under the full moon. And you know, we'd go to bed under the covers kind of cowering at these people.
Part of the pleasure is that you do cower. I mean, there's certainly a pleasure in the fear, the frisson of fear.
Oh, there's no, people love to be frightened.
For sure.
Right. Now, let me ask you here in Farewell to the Flesh, Candyman, what is his motivation with this family? You know, I said there's a young woman who's trying to find out why the Candyman has got a curse on her family.
One of the things we try to do with all the Candyman pictures is have a plot, which isn't always.
This is a good idea in a picture.
Always
Yeah.
happen
This
in
is a
horror
good idea in a
movies.
movie.
Horror movies are often plotless, but we've always tried to have a mystery element in here,
Like,
and that's the heart
this
of.
to me is what like ruled out social self-pres, because it's like, yeah, like, wow, we have a plot. Like, what a novel thing. Like, he kind of has more of this vibe, I think.
Yeah.
Like, we agree that like David Lynch is a SPSX 91174, right? Like, that makes sense to me.
The story of how it happened, how I came to do it.
How you came to do the thing.
Okay. In 1994, Alvin made this journey.
This is Alvin Strait.
Alvin Strait. And he traveled on his riding lawnmower to visit his brother,
who was very ill.
Who was very ill. And the newspapers covered this story. Toward the end, people got, aware of it and started covering it. And Mary Sweeney read about it in the New York Times. She held this, desire for 4 years to want to, write the story and get it made. And I'm hearing about it. I live with Mary.
I know, I was going to say.
Yeah, I live with her, and every morning, every night, I'm hearing about this great story. That's what I am, both. I'm also a great guitar player.
Oh, you really?
Yeah.
How about cook?
No, I don't like cooking at all. No.
Don't like it at all?
No.
What else do you do well? You paint, you direct, you play the guitar.
I'm very interested in music. I'm not a guitar player. I play the guitar, but I am very interested in sound and music. I love working with Angelo Badalamenti.
He's done everything you've done since.
I don't know. I do feel like he has like this sort of, like, he looks different in his, too many things open. I think there's like a 911 sort of fancy boy sort of. I'm trying to figure out how to like articulate like this kind of soft. It's not soft, but it's like.
Yeah, I guess when I see more videos of him. What? Well, I guess when I see videos of him when he's younger, he does seem a bit more like one wing.
Yeah.
9-wing one.
And I mean, if you think about like the stuff that he did, it's like whether or not he fucked his cousin and gave everybody AIDS, I don't fucking know. But I don't think that like I know enough degenerate 9-wing ones that like it's not just, you know what I mean? Like nines can, and nines with a 7 can just completely alleviate themselves of any fucking guilt. So
like he seems a bit more delicate in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Delicate.
Compared to
That's the
9-wing
word.
8.
Yes, delicate. That is
That
the
does
word.
seem, and that does kind of seem like more 9-wing 1 too.
Yeah, that's true.
Have that sort of. Although if he also has a 4-fix, that could kind of contribute to that feeling,
Like
or that vibe.
It's more like as a like when he's older, when he's sort of like undergone these physical sort of things, that he seems more like wing 80 maybe, like where he's got just more meat or whatever. But
taking up more space also.
But like Chuck Palahniuk, who I know is a 9-wing 1, also kind of has the same, you know what I mean? Like there's something there that's similar, and like he's social self-pres, but you can sort of see there's like a like there's kind of like a similar Jesus sort of thing, I think he's 4 second. Like, how do you guys feel about the order?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Like
because I think it has a
no, but yeah,
like and like the way he talked about his like purpose and stuff, it kind of sounds like a strong heart fix.
Yeah.
About the need to get the vision, or like this strong need to get the vision out, kind of sounded like a strong heart fix to me.
Yeah, and his stuff is very dark. So I think this is an Enneagrammer thing. I don't know how much it holds up, but often like that the next, like the second fix or whatever the second thing is like often the creative playground. So I could see like 4-wing 5 being that, with given all the shit that he does, like his fucking crazy.
Yeah, it also shines through a lot more.
Yeah, it does seem more pronounced than it does with some people. Like David Lynch seems like he's playing in some kind of southern playground with his stuff. Like
yeah,
nonsensical.
Yeah, like this guy kind of seems more sensitive compared to, I don't know. I haven't actually watched that much of Stephen Lynch, but just at first glance, it feels like this guy is a bit more sensitive.
I've seen a lot of his interviews. Yeah, it's always very slow and weird.
David Lynch?
Yeah. He has like his own YouTube channel where he like reads the weather. It's so weird. Like, today it is raining, and then he's like, I don't know, talking about fucking like the weather or something, but like in a very bizarre way.
When he's younger, there is kind of a similar quality to
yeah,
sort of this like yeah, it's like a fancy boy sort of
dandy
boy.
Like a little prince, delicate.
Yeah,
so that also seems kind of foreish, the whole princely vibe.
Yeah, I wonder, is he 4-wing 5 or 4-wing 3 fix?
I think it was 4-wing 3.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me than 4-wing 5. I think he's not really, he's dark, but he's not actually dark. Like it's like
Or like he seems to have more of a presentation, a treesh presentation in a way. I don't know. Like there's a bit more of a like stylish presentation that seems a bit treesh.
Yeah. It's more
like sleek or like.
And Clive Barker.
More like.
Yeah, Clive Barker is like in hell, in the underground, the pits of hell where everything burns. It's like very much a 4-5 aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like the nasty, grimy slime on the world.
Whereas Stephen Lynch seems a bit more polished.
Yeah. More polished, more I don't know, elevated in a way. It's more like royal in a vague way, like more, yeah.
Like I don't, yeah, it's hard to see, like, I mean, I think he's 911. I mean, I guess you could argue 874 is way darker, like an 874 overlay would make him way darker like this. But yeah, I don't know.
No, but I can see one, two. It doesn't. It's like not a hard. I don't know. I don't have like hard opinions on it or something.
Unless his head is 7 wing 8, but it seems 7 wing 6y to me. Like he seems sort of like bouncing around in like Never Land.
Of our mystery in Farewell to the Flesh, and in this Candyman picture, we have a connection between this anti-hero, this troubled monster Candyman, and this woman, which I don't want to give too much away because the story takes these characters through a kind of journey together.
Your own flesh and blood. And you got it all going, don't you?
Oh yeah.
You got the light.
The music's going, the lightning's going.
He doesn't exist, this baby.
Exactly. And that's the problem, you know, you can't say monsters don't exist because that's when they come for you.
Now, some people would call this a horror story. You prefer to use the term imaginative fiction?
Yeah, I mean,
you use your imagination with this sort of thing.
Imagination. For me, horror films, it certainly has horrific elements in it, but it has a lot of damn fine acting and good storytelling, and it feels to me as though horror has become debased in the last few years. And when we talk about horror movies, increasingly we think of just mindless pieces of bloodletting, and we've tried to do something better than that.
In the UK, you grew up in Liverpool, was that right?
Sure.
And lived in London for a long time before coming here. Were our monsters big over there, like Bela Lugosi?
For sure.
And Boris Karloff?
But you see, I have to be a little possessive myself here. Remember that those stories are based on
yours, of course.
Yes, right. Mary Shelley.
We took a lot from you when we came across the pond.
And that's right, absolutely. And many of the actors who were in the Universal pictures of the 30s, which I'm very fond of, were English actors. I mean, Karloff, of course, was English.
Surely.
Ernest Thesiger was English. And James Whale, who directed what I believe to be the greatest American horror movie, Bride of Frankenstein, was English. Extraordinary picture.
You know, they used to show those when I lived in New York. They ran them on PBS back there at midnight. And I would sit there in the bed at night, you know, with the colors.
Now, how old are you when you're carrying him?
Oh, God, I'm 45 years old. Are you kidding? Are you?
Jesus.
Like, okay, he's engaged with this guy because this guy's like telling him, oh, I'm like a coward. I'm like a, look at his face. It just lit up. Like,
I know.
Tell me you
almost
have torment.
demonic. It's like a demonic laughter.
You kidding me? You know, you're alone in the house in New York City at night, and it's midnight, and you know, they always, did you have one where the moon comes up? They all had, remember in Frankenstein?
Of course, full moons, always. Full
and
moons.
Dracula.
Yeah.
With Eve.
Well, you see, the interesting thing about Dracula is like...
This interviewer is good because he's playing along with his little fantastical buying into it. Like, where if we hadn't seen him try to impose these conversations in other situations, it might have seemed like he's playing more ball with the interviewer, but it's like the interviewer having to like play to what he wants to kind of talk about.
But like Candyman, he elicits a certain amount of sympathy. For me, great monsters are not simply images of fear. They're also images that we feel a kind of ambiguity about. We're scared, but we also feel we get closer to.
Dracula is doomed to live forever.
And fall in love with people he's going to lose. Carlos Frankenstein.
Actually, I want to say something that's an interesting point is for like a 4-wing-5 heart with social blind, maybe like the fantasizing about falling in love with someone who's broken and a monster, and like I think that might be a 4-fix thing. Like it's figured the evil, and then there was this one.
And it's also like how he implies that he identifies with the monster in a way.
Yeah. Because
Like
I think
he implies more identification with those monster characters.
any fool can be happy. It takes a man with a real heart to make beauty out of the stuff that makes us weep.
Wow.
Gory shit.
Yeah.
The monster at its best transforms and transforms like a dream mate responding to every nuance of desire. That does seem like SPS sexy.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking the same.
I don't
The
know.
transforming element also.
Our final typing of Clive Barker is 9 wing 1, 4 wing 5, 7 wing 6. Self-preservation sexual.
Yes. Mm-hmm. One of us. One of us.
Do we want him? I really hope he didn't. Actually, kind of like that he fucked his cousin. Makes me like him more.